You ate the whole meal, and now you're telling me you have no money to pay? Are you kidding me? Caitlin's voice cut through the diner like a knife. Forks paused mid-air. Conversations died. And the man in the navy suit, handsome, polished, completely out of place in a roadside diner, stood frozen with humiliation creeping up his neck. Maya, the black waitress rushing between tables with a tray on her hip, turned just in time to see his hands shaking as he checked his pockets again. I swear I must have dropped my wallet, he said quietly, eyes lowering as the room stared. He looked like a man drowning while everyone watched. And in that moment, Maya did something no one expected, something that would change her life forever. Before we continue, I want to speak to you for a moment.
If stories like this remind you that kindness still exists, if they make you feel something real in a world that's getting louder and colder, then I'd love to have you here with us. This channel isn't just videos, it's a tiny corner of the internet where good people come together, where we believe in second chances, in hope and in humanity. And right now you're early. You're part of the very first people building this family with me. So if you want to grow with us, if you want more stories that touch your heart, go ahead and subscribe. It's free, it supports the channel more than you know, and it tells me that there are still people out there who believe in kindness just as much as I do. If you have subscribed to this channel, I can officially say, welcome to the family. The lunch rush hit the lakeside diner like a storm with no warning. By 12:15, every booth was packed, every stool filled, and every voice in the room blended into a loud, impatient hum. Plates clattered, silverware scraped across ceramic, and the grill hissed non-stop behind the counter as smoke curled toward the ceiling fans. For Maya, it was the same battle she fought 6 days a week. One tray on her arm, 3 tables calling for her attention, and a manager who acted like being short-staffed was her personal fault. Her feet ached through her worn-out sneakers, her back stung, and the tendon in her left wrist felt like a rubber band stretched too thin. But she moved anyway, fast, efficient, and with the kind of grace only people who have no choice ever learn. She forced a smile as she delivered a plate of pancakes, and then turned to grab the refills for table 3, where a couple was already tapping their glasses like she had purposely ignored them. "Be right with you," she called, exhaling through her nose. The rush hour hadn't even peaked yet, and Maya already felt like she was sprinting underwater. Then she heard it. A loud, sharp voice slicing through the diner's noise like a whistle at the end of a round. "You ate the whole meal and now you tell me you have no money to pay. Are you kidding me?" Every head turned. Even the kitchen went silent for a second. Maya whipped around, her stomach sinking when she recognized the voice. Caitlin Reed, sharp-tongued, blonde ponytail pulled tight enough to lift her eyebrows, and a personality that could curdle milk. She stood with her hand on her hip, napkin crumpled in her fist, glaring at a man in one of the corner booths. The man looked around 35, maybe a little older. He wore a navy suit that fit him perfectly, not like something pulled off a clearance rack, but tailored, high-end, expensive. His shoes were polished, his tie loosened as if he'd stepped away from a long meeting, and his hair was the kind that only came from a barbershop that offered scotch while you waited. But right now, he was sweating. I swear I had it when I came in," he stammered, patting every pocket like he was trying to conjure the wallet out of thin air. The other customers started whispering. "That's embarrassing. Who comes to a restaurant without checking first? Probably trying to dine and dash." The man's face flushed a deep red as he checked his suit jacket a third time. "I'm not lying," he said quietly. I must have dropped it. I can come back. I promise I can come back. Caitlin scoffed and crossed her arms. Oh, please, save it. You probably do this everywhere. Eat, act shocked, hope someone lets it slide. Not happening here. Caitlin, Maya called gently, stepping closer. Maybe. No, Maya, Caitlin snapped. Don't defend him. He ate the whole meal. He knew he had to pay. This is ridiculous. The man swallowed hard, humiliation dripping from every trembling movement. I'm sorry, he said, voice shrinking. I'm really sorry doesn't pay the bill, Caitlin bit back. Maya's chest tightened. She knew that tone. She'd heard it directed at her too many times growing up. At grocery stores, school offices, restaurants, any place where someone felt they had the right to treat another person like they were beneath them. The man wasn't dangerous. He wasn't aggressive. He wasn't making excuses. He was embarrassed. Maya stepped forward, her pulse kicking up. Caitlin, she said again, but this time her voice was firm. Please. Caitlin raised an eyebrow. What? You want to pay for Mr. Fancy's suit over here? Be my guest. The customers around them waited. Some looked entertained, some looked annoyed, some looked uncomfortable but didn't dare say anything. Maya swallowed. Her throat felt tight and her palms were sweaty. She only had $41 left after paying her daughter's school fees last night. Payday wasn't until Thursday. She already planned on skipping lunch today, and she'd been praying her car would keep running without gas for one more day. But she looked at the man again, hands shaking, eyes low, a voice cracking, and she knew the decision was already made. Yeah, she whispered softly. I'll pay it. The diner fell silent. Caitlin blinked, caught off guard. Wait, you're serious? Maya nodded, pulling her worn debit card from her apron. As long as he promises he'll come back. The man looked up sharply, his eyes glassy in a way that made Maya's heart twist. I will, he said. I swear I will. You have no idea how much. It's okay, Maya said gently. We've all had days like this. But that wasn't the truth. Not everyone had days like this. Only people like her. People who never caught a break. People who carried the weight of the world alone. People who knew exactly what it felt like to have their dignity dangling on a thread while strangers judged them. The man pressed his shaking hands to his forehead, overwhelmed. I don't know your name, he said, struggling to steady his voice, but thank you. Thank you more than you know. Maya, she said softly. He repeated it. Maya. Like he was trying to memorize it, like the name meant something already. She handed her card to Caitlin, who rolled her eyes, but swiped it anyway. Whatever, she muttered. Don't blame me when he never shows up again. Maya ignored her. She focused on the man instead as she returned his receipt with a polite nod. No worries, she murmured. Just try to have a better day from here on. He nodded slowly, then stood, adjusting his jacket as though trying to regain a shred of dignity. I will, he said. I promise. He walked toward the exit, pausing at the door to look back at her one more time. Something passed in his expression, a mixture of sorrow, respect, and something else she couldn't name. Then he stepped out into the sunlight and disappeared. Maya exhaled shakily as she slipped her card back into her apron. Her account would be near zero now, maybe negative. She'd check later when she had the courage. Right now, there were tables to clean, coffee cups to refill, orders to take, tips to hope for. Maya, a customer said softly as she passed their booth. That was kind of you. She smiled weakly. I just did what I hoped someone would do for me. Caitlin snorted as she walked by. You're too soft, she muttered. People walk all over you. But that wasn't true. Maya wasn't soft. She was tired. She was broke. She was stretched thin. But she wasn't soft. She was human, and she refused to stop seeing humanity in others, no matter what the world tried to beat out of her. As she finished clearing a table, her co-worker Danny leaned in. "You good?" he asked quietly. Maya nodded. "Yeah, just another day." But as she turned toward the kitchen, she had no idea the truth. No idea who the man truly was. No idea what he was capable of. No idea that the moment she handed Caitlin her debit card, her life had shifted off its old axis. Because the man she had just helped was Wilson M. Pacheco, and tomorrow morning he would walk back into the diner. Not as a broke customer, but as the man whose presence would alter Maya's entire world. Forever. The diner felt strangely quieter after the man left, as if a piece of its noise had followed him out the door. Maya stood still for a moment, fingers curled loosely around a stack of dirty plates, watching the sunlight fade from the glass where he had disappeared. Then she blinked, shook herself back to reality, and moved. There was no time to think about strangers, wallets lost, bills unpaid, or promises made out of desperation. The lunch rush wasn't finished, and her shift didn't end just because her heart felt like someone had squeezed it and let go. "Table 5 wants more napkins," Danny called out. "Got it." Table 2 spilled their soda, Caitlin added, flicking her ponytail sharply as she walked past. "You might want to clean it before someone slips." Maya bit her tongue. On it. She spent the next hour moving non-stop, refilling drinks, clearing plates, cleaning spills, offering polite smiles when she barely had the energy for one. But part of her mind kept drifting back to the man in the navy suit, his voice shaking, his pride slipping, his eyes grateful, surprised, maybe even scared. Who was he, really? Why did a man who dressed like that eat alone in a half-worn diner? Why did he look like he was carrying more than just the embarrassment of a missing wallet? "Stop it!" she scolded herself silently. "You already paid his bill. No sense thinking about him now." Eventually, the lunch crowd thinned. The hum of conversation dwindled to a gentle murmur, and the air finally felt breathable again. Maya leaned against the counter for a moment, rubbing the tension from her lower back. "You okay?" Danny asked. She nodded, though the answer was no, but she didn't have the energy to explain. Not today, not ever, really. The wind had picked up by the time she stepped outside after her shift. Grey clouds bunched across the sky, looking like they might burst any second. Maya pulled her jacket tighter around her and began her familiar walk home. 6 blocks. 6 long, uneven blocks past cracked sidewalks, a row of shuttered storefronts, the alley where the streetlight flickered like a dying firefly, then the bend that led to her neighborhood. Her phone vibrated. A message from her mum. "Mum, the gas bill came. It's higher this month." Maya exhaled slowly, staring at the message like it was written in another language. She didn't respond right away. She couldn't. She needed a second to breathe before reality began clawing at her again. 2 minutes later, another message. "Mum, and Harmony's inhaler is almost out. She needs a refill. Her daughter, her bright, curious, warm-hearted 8-year-old, who wheezed whenever the weather changed." Maya's chest tightened. She texted back, "Maya, I'll take care of it tomorrow. I promise." Even though she didn't know how. Even though her account was dangerously close to overdrafting, maybe already had. Even though payday was still days away. The weight of it all pressed on her shoulders, heavy enough to make her hunch forward as she walked. Rent, utilities, asthma meds, school lunches, shoes Harmony had outgrown, and now feeding another adult whose wallet had disappeared. She let out a humorless laugh. "Nice job, Maya," she muttered. "Real smart. But deep down, she knew she wouldn't change what she did, not even if it meant skipping another meal or juggling another bill. Kindness wasn't her luxury, it was her instinct. She reached her apartment building, a weather-beaten brick structure with a flickering stairwell light and a railing that wobbled if you leaned on it too hard. Her feet dragged up the stairs, every step reminding her she'd been on them since dawn. When she opened the door, Harmony ran toward her, inhaler in hand. "Mommy!" Maya forced a smile and scooped her up. "Hey, baby, you have a good day?" Harmony nodded eagerly and launched into a story about school, but halfway through, she coughed, a harsh little wheeze that twisted Maya's heart. "Time for a breathing treatment," Maya murmured, guiding her gently toward the nebulizer. While the machine hummed, Maya sorted through the mail pile on the kitchen table. Bills, bills, a notice, more bills. She let her head fall back, staring at the peeling ceiling. Just one easy month. 1 month without something breaking. 1 month without medication costs. 1 month without panic. But life didn't give her breaks. It gave her responsibilities. It gave her a little girl who depended on her. And today it had given her a stranger who needed help too. As she sat beside Harmony, smoothing her daughter's curls while the machine puffed medicated mist, Maya replayed the moment the man said her name. Maya. As if the name meant something, as if it mattered. She shook her head at herself. He was just a customer, a stranger who had a bad day, someone she would never see again. She turned off the nebulizer when Harmony was done, kissed her forehead, and started heating canned soup for dinner. The sky finally opened outside, pouring rain against the windows like handfuls of pebbles. One more night, one more set of problems. One more reminder of how close they were to the edge. Maya washed the dishes in silence later that evening, her thoughts drifting lazily through exhaustion. She had done something kind, something she wished someone had done for her once. But kindness didn't pay bills. Kindness didn't buy inhalers. Kindness didn't keep the lights on. Still, that man's face, the way he looked at her like she was the first person in a long time to treat him like he wasn't invisible, stayed with her longer than she expected. Be longer than it should have, she sighed, wiped her hands on a towel, and turned off the kitchen light. Tomorrow would be better. She had to believe that. Meanwhile, across town, far from cracked sidewalks, flickering streetlights, and overdue bills, the man Maya helped sat in the back seat of a sleek black SUV as it pulled through the gates of a private estate. The driveway alone was longer than Maya's entire street. Security lights flickered on as the vehicle approached the mansion, modern, glass-walled, sprawling over manicured green lawns that looked nothing like the tired grass patches outside Maya's building. Inside, the man tugged off his tie with a slow, thoughtful movement. He still heard the waitress's voice, still saw her face when she handed over her card, still felt the rush of shock when she said, "It's okay." He sank into the leather seat,
rubbing his forehead. Of all the people he had met, investors, CEOs, politicians, none had looked at him the way she did. Not with expectation, not with caution, not with greed, with humanity. "Sir," his driver said softly, "should I schedule tomorrow's meeting at the downtown office?" The man didn't answer right away. His mind wasn't on conference rooms or business strategies. It was on the lakeside diner and the woman named Maya. He finally shook his head. "No," he said quietly. "I need to go somewhere else first thing in the morning." The driver nodded. "Of course, Mr. Pacheco." The name hung in the air with weight. Wilson M. Pacheco, one of the wealthiest businessmen in the state, owner of multiple corporations, a man whose fortune came from nothing but grew into billions.
A man who could buy the entire block the diner sat on without blinking. A man nobody would ever expect to be sitting alone in a diner, pretending to be just another customer. He leaned back, staring at the ceiling as the SUV rolled to a stop in front of the mansion. He whispered her name once under his breath. Maya. A name he wasn't going to forget. A woman he wasn't done with. Not by far. Inside his office, past a wall of floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the stormy night, Wilson opened his laptop. He pulled up the security report from the property team he sent earlier that day. The report confirmed one detail that made his chest tighten. Maya Fields, age 29, single mother, 2 jobs, behind on payments, never once late for a shift, and still she helped him. He closed the file and pressed his hands together, his jaw tightening with a feeling he hadn't felt in years. Resolve. Tomorrow morning he would return to the diner, not as a desperate stranger, not as a lost wallet case, as Wilson M. Pacheco, the man who owed her more than he could ever explain. The diner buzzed with an unusual energy that morning. A slip of paper tacked to the bulletin board read, VIP reservation, 12:30 p.m. The staff exchanged nervous glances. VIP, Caitlin scoffed, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Who even... Ugh, never mind. Just make sure we're ready. The tension was palpable, and when the clock struck 12:15, the phone rang. Maya answered, trying to hide her exhaustion from last night's bills and long hours. Yes, we'll be ready, she said politely, glancing at the schedule. She hadn't realized that she would be assigned to serve the VIP table. Seriously? Caitlin muttered under her breath. You? You'll mess this up. Maya ignored her, smoothing her apron and taking a deep breath. She had always tried to do her best, even when it felt like the world was against her. At exactly 12:30, the diner doors swung open. A hush fell over the room. Heads turned. Phones were raised discreetly to snap photos. And there he was, Wilson M. Pacheco. He strode in with a quiet authority that demanded attention. Flanked by aides and several suited individuals, he scanned the diner as if it were a familiar stage. The room froze, except for Maya, who instinctively straightened her posture and approached the table. "Good afternoon, welcome," Maya said, her voice steady, though her heart raced. Wilson's eyes met hers. Recognition flickered. A faint smile tugged at his lips. "Hello," he said simply. The aides whispered behind him, unsure why their VIP had singled out a waitress in such a small, modest diner. Caitlin's face drained of color. You're the one from yesterday," Wilson said, his voice low but warm, meant only for her. Maya froze. I don't... Wilson held up a hand, shaking his head. "Don't worry about it, I remember. Thank you for helping me when I was, well, let's say, unprepared." Time seemed to slow. Maya's jaw dropped. The man who had walked in, broke and hungry, the one she'd quietly helped without thought, was standing before her in full power and wealth. Caitlin's smug attitude evaporated instantly. "Oh, wow," she muttered, glaring at Maya with envy and regret. Wilson gestured to the manager. "I want her taking care of us today," he said, with an unmistakable authority that left no room for debate. Maya swallowed hard, her hands shaking slightly, but she led the group to the table. As she served drinks and menus, she noticed Wilson's aides whispering, exchanging impressed glances. He didn't need them. He had made his choice. "Your kindness meant more than you know," Wilson said quietly when Maya handed him the menu. "Not everyone would have done what you did. It matters." Maya felt her throat tighten. I was just trying to help," she murmured. "Exactly," he said, smiling gently. "And now I want to help you. Consider this a small token of my gratitude." He reached into his briefcase and handed her a sleek envelope. Confused, Maya opened it later at the staff's break table. Inside were documents, a fully funded scholarship for Harmony, a generous emergency fund for her family's bills, and an offer to help Maya with her dream of opening her own cafe one day. Tears pricked her eyes. I can't believe this," she whispered. Caitlin, who had been watching from a distance, stepped back, unable to hide her awe. You actually did it?" she said softly. Maya shook her head, smiling through tears. "I didn't do anything special. I just tried to do the right thing." Wilson rejoined her briefly before leaving. "That's exactly why I remembered you. The world could use more people like you." As the VIP party departed, the diner returned to normal, though the energy lingered. Maya returned to the counter, where Harmony's drawing of a sunny sky and a smiling family still sat. She picked it up, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. Sometimes, kindness was repaid in ways you could never imagine. And sometimes, the smallest actions changed everything. Maya glanced at the empty street outside, her heart swelling. The future she had feared might never come now felt possible. The diner buzzed with chatter again, but Maya walked with a new confidence. She had faced hardship, shown compassion, and in return, the universe, through Wilson, had handed her a chance to rewrite her story. And for the first time in a long time, she smiled freely, knowing she and Harmony had a brighter tomorrow ahead. The diner had returned to its usual rhythm after the VIP party, but Maya couldn't shake the lingering sense of wonder. The memory of Wilson M. Pacheco's smile, his quiet acknowledgement of her kindness, played on repeat in her mind. Later that afternoon, as she wiped down the counter, the phone rang. The manager picked it up, then nodded toward Maya. "It's for you," he said cautiously. "Mr. Pacheco wants to speak with you personally." Maya's stomach flipped. "Me?" she whispered, glancing at Caitlin, who was frozen in disbelief behind her. "Yes," he insisted, the manager replied, handing her the receiver. Maya took a deep breath. "Hello. Hello, Maya. It's Wilson," came the calm, measured voice. "I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time." No, it's fine," Maya stammered, unsure what to expect. "I wanted to meet you, not as a diner guest, but as someone who genuinely wants to understand the person who helped me yesterday," he continued. "Would you be willing to come by my office tomorrow?" Maya blinked, her mind racing. "Your office?" "Yes, I'd like to hear about your life, your struggles, your dreams, and why you chose to help a stranger." The words made her hands tremble. She had never been in a situation like this, never imagined that a billionaire would take a personal interest in her. I guess I could," she said cautiously, excitement and nerves warring inside her. "Good, I'll arrange everything. See you tomorrow, Maya," Wilson said before hanging up. The next morning, Maya arrived at Wilson's sleek office building, heart pounding. The lobby was immaculate, polished floors reflecting the sunlight streaming through massive windows. She felt small, almost invisible amidst the sea of suits and high-powered professionals bustling past. A secretary greeted her warmly and led her to an elevator. The ride up felt surreal, as if she were moving further away from the life she'd always known. When the elevator doors opened, Wilson was waiting. He smiled, not the reserved smile from the diner, but a full, genuine one. "Maya," he said, extending his hand, "thank you for coming." "It's an honor," she replied, shaking it, still slightly intimidated. "Please, sit," he said, gesturing to a modern, minimalist office with a view that seemed to stretch forever. For a few minutes, he asked about her life, about Harmony, her family, the bills she struggled to pay, and the sacrifices she made just to keep everything afloat. Maya spoke honestly, cautiously, yet something in Wilson's presence made her feel safe enough to share more than she normally would. "And why did you help me yesterday?" he asked finally, leaning forward, his expression curious. Maya hesitated. I don't know, I just felt like it was the right thing to do. I've had people help me when I was down, and I guess I wanted to do the same for someone else. Wilson nodded slowly. Kindness like that is rare, and it doesn't go unnoticed. Then, without warning, he leaned back in his chair and smiled, the kind of smile that made her stomach flip. "Maya, I don't want to just give you money. That wouldn't change anything long term. Instead, I want to offer you something more meaningful." Maya blinked. "Meaningful? I want to give you an opportunity," he said. "An interview for a high-level role in one of my companies. A position that could truly change your life." Maya felt her world tilt. I'm just a waitress," she whispered. "Exactly," he said, his voice firm but kind. "Which is why I need someone with your perspective, integrity, and courage. Someone who understands people, struggles, and the power of doing the right thing, even when it's hard. That's the kind of person who can make a difference in my company." Her hands shook. The offer was unbelievable. It wasn't just money. It was a chance to step into a completely new life, to break free from the endless cycle of bills and worry. I don't know what to say," Maya breathed. "Say yes," Wilson said simply. "Come in tomorrow for the interview. You don't need to impress me. I just need your honesty and heart. That's what matters most." Maya left the office in a daze, her mind racing with a whirlwind of emotions: disbelief, fear, excitement, and hope. For the first time in her life, she realized that a single act of kindness could ripple into something far bigger than she had ever imagined. That evening, she returned home to Harmony, who ran to her with a bright smile. Maya hugged her tightly, silently vowing that whatever happened next, this was only the beginning of a life filled with possibility. And deep down, she knew one truth that would stay with her forever. Goodness never goes unnoticed, and sometimes it opens doors nobody ever sees coming. The glass doors of Pacheco Enterprises gleamed under the morning sun as Maya stepped inside, her hands clutching the strap of her simple handbag. The lobby was vast, echoing with the click of heels on polished marble floors, the hum of urgent conversations, and the low murmur of executives in tailored suits. She felt painfully out of place. Her worn sneakers and faded apron, replaced with a modest blouse and skirt, stood in stark contrast to the expensive fashion around her. Every polished surface reflected back her nervousness, reminding her that she was, in this world, a complete outsider. "Good morning," she said to the receptionist, her voice steady despite the storm of anxiety inside her. "I'm Maya Lopez. I have an interview with Mr. Pacheco." The receptionist smiled politely, tapping a keyboard. "Of course, Ms. Lopez. Mr. Pacheco is expecting you. Please take the elevator to the 42nd floor. Someone will meet you there." The elevator ride felt like a descent into another world. Each floor ticked past, higher and higher, until Maya could hardly believe she was about to meet the man who had changed her life with a single act of recognition. When the doors opened, a young executive stepped forward, clipboard in hand. "Ms. Lopez," he said, his tone polite but skeptical. "We're excited to meet you. Follow me." Maya followed silently, her heartbeat loud in her ears. The office corridor was lined with floor-to-ceiling windows that framed a dizzying view of the city. The higher she climbed, the smaller her fears seemed, yet somehow the weight of the room ahead pressed down harder. The conference room door opened, revealing a long, gleaming table surrounded by a dozen executives in sharp suits. They looked at her like she had just walked off the street, and in a sense, she had. "Ms. Lopez," one of them began, adjusting his glasses, "we're curious how someone with your background could contribute here. Corporate leadership is complex. This isn't a diner." Maya's throat tightened. She had rehearsed answers in the cab ride over, but the room, the suits, the stifling air made her words vanish. I don't have corporate experience," she admitted, her voice small. "But I've worked with people, helped them, understood their struggles, and—" "Exactly," another executive interrupted, frowning. "That's all very heartwarming, but we need results. You'll be handling projects, budgets, negotiations. This is high-level strategy. Do you really think you're ready?" Maya swallowed. She felt the weight of doubt settle over her like a shadow. She glanced at the far end of the table, where Wilson usually would be, but he wasn't there yet. The room seemed to close in on her, and for the first time since her encounter at the diner, she wondered if she had made a mistake. Her hand shook as she gripped the edge of the table. I want to learn," she said finally. "I may not have experience, but I can work hard. I can—" The executives exchanged quiet, skeptical glances. One of them whispered something under his breath, causing another to smirk. Maya's stomach sank. Perhaps she truly was in over her head. Just then the door swung open. All chatter ceased as Wilson M. Pacheco entered the room. His presence shifted the atmosphere instantly, his calm authority commanding attention, his gaze locking on Maya with an intensity that made the other executives straighten in their chairs. "Maya," he said warmly, walking toward her. "Thank you for coming. I see you've met the team." "Yes, sir," Maya said, bowing her head slightly. Wilson smiled gently. He glanced around at the executives. "I understand you have concerns." A sharp, young executive raised a hand. "Mr. Pacheco, with all due respect, her resume doesn't show the kind of corporate background we typically expect for a leadership role." "How do you see her fitting in?" Wilson's smile didn't falter. "Let me tell you a story." He leaned against the head of the table, his gaze steady. "Many years ago I was sitting in a diner, very much like the one where Maya works now. I was broke, hungry, struggling to make ends meet. A stranger, someone I barely knew, helped me when I had nothing. Not money, not connections, not even recognition. Just kindness." The executives blinked, unsure how to respond. "That act of kindness," Wilson continued, his voice low but filled with passion, "changed the trajectory of my life. It reminded me that the right people, the right actions, and the right guidance can turn potential into success, no matter how small the beginning." Maya's eyes widened as he spoke.
She recognized that story. It mirrored exactly what had happened at her diner yesterday. Wilson turned to the room. "Maya, your kindness reminded me of that person. Your courage, your compassion, your integrity. These are qualities that matter far more than a resume or a title. And that is why I want you here." The executives exchanged incredulous looks, some mouths opening and closing in surprise. Wilson gestured to Maya. "This isn't about what you've done in the past. It's about what you can do. And with the right support, guidance, and opportunities, I have no doubt you'll exceed expectations." Maya's throat tightened. Her hands shook, but this time it wasn't fear. It was awe. I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Say yes," Wilson said, smiling warmly. "Say yes to learning, to growth, and to making a difference.
That's all I ask." The room fell silent. Even the most skeptical executives felt the weight of his words. Maya's eyes flicked around, meeting their doubtful gazes and seeing respect. For the first time, she realized that she didn't need to impress them with experience. She only needed to stay true to herself.
I'll do it,"
she said, finally, her voice gaining strength.
"I'll work hard. I'll learn. I won't let you down."
Wilson nodded, satisfaction in his eyes. "Good. That's all I needed to hear." The executives looked at her differently now. Curiosity replaced skepticism. Maya's courage, her honesty, and her unwavering heart had shifted the room. Later, as Wilson walked her to the elevator, he leaned down slightly and spoke quietly, just for her. "Maya, never underestimate the power of your actions. One act of kindness can ripple farther than you ever imagine, and sometimes the person you help will remember you forever." Tears pricked at her eyes, but she smiled. For the first time in years, she felt the weight of her worries lift. A new path was opening, one she hadn't dared dream of until now. As the elevator doors closed, Maya looked at her reflection in the glass. Gone was the exhausted, overworked waitress from yesterday. In its place stood someone capable, determined, and seen, not just by Wilson, but by the world she was about to step into. The hidden obstacle wasn't experience, or money, or background. It was doubt. And Maya had just crushed it, one act of courage at a time. For the first time in her life, she realized her kindness hadn't just helped someone else, it had changed her life forever.
Maya's steps felt heavy as she walked into the diner that morning. The familiar smell of coffee and sizzling bacon usually comforted her, but today it only reminded her of the life she was trying to leave behind, or at least the life she was hoping to change. She was nervous. The interview had been tomorrow, and doubts gnawed at her. Could she really handle a high-level corporate role? Could someone like her, a simple waitress with bills and a small apartment, survive in a world of power suits, budgets, and boardrooms? Caitlin noticed her immediately, perched by the counter with her usual smug grin. Well, look who's thinking she's going to make it big," she sneered. "Don't get your hopes up, Maya. You, in a fancy office? Ha ha." Maya's cheeks burned, but she forced herself to stay calm. "We'll see," she said quietly,
refusing to let Caitlin's words shake her. The diner's bell jingled, drawing everyone's attention. Maya's heart skipped a beat as she turned to see Wilson M. Pacheco walking in, this time not alone, but with several aides and a few photographers trailing behind him. The diner fell silent. Even Caitlin's smirk faltered as whispers rippled through the small crowd of patrons.
"Maya,"
Wilson called warmly, his gaze locking on hers. "Can we talk?"
"Yes, sir,"
she managed, trying to steady her trembling hands. He led her to the center of the diner, where all eyes now followed them. The tension was palpable. Everyone sensed that something monumental was about to happen. "I wanted to make this moment special," Wilson began, his voice carrying clearly across the room. "Not just for Maya, but for everyone here. Sometimes acts of kindness go unnoticed, but when they are noticed, they should be celebrated." Maya blinked, unsure of what he meant. Wilson's assistant stepped forward, handing him a sleek folder. He opened it and turned to face the diner. "Maya Lopez," he announced, his voice ringing with authority and warmth. "You are officially appointed as the Community Outreach Director for the Pacheco Foundation." A stunned silence filled the room. Maya's jaw dropped. Her hands flew to her mouth. The title alone sounded like something from a dream, but she could see the documents in Wilson's hand, contracts, salary figures, and a roadmap for her new role. Caitlin's mouth fell open and she sputtered, "What?" "Yes," Wilson continued, smiling directly at Maya. "You'll be leading initiatives to help communities, families, and individuals who struggle every day, just as you've struggled and helped others. This position comes with the resources, salary, and authority to truly make a difference. Your courage, kindness, and integrity brought you here, and now they'll help countless others." The diner erupted. Patrons clapped, cheered, and some even stood on their chairs to celebrate. Maya's knees felt weak as tears streamed down her face. Relief, joy, and disbelief collided inside her, creating a storm she could hardly contain. "Thank you," she stammered, barely able to speak. I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything," Wilson replied softly, stepping closer. "Just keep being you. That's all anyone's ever needed to see." Caitlin, who had spent the entire morning mocking Maya, was now frozen, staring at her in stunned silence. She had no words, no clever comeback, no snide remark. For once, her arrogance had nothing to land on. Harmony, who had been sitting quietly at a booth with her colouring books, ran up and threw her arms around her mother. "Mommy! Mommy! You did it! You're going to help so many people!" she cried, tears of excitement in her own eyes. Maya held her daughter tightly, her tears soaking Harmony's small shoulder. "Yes, baby," she whispered. "Mommy did it. Everything's going to change, and for us, and for so many others." The entire diner joined in applause, clapping and cheering for the young woman who had changed someone's life just by being kind, and who, in turn, had her life changed forever. Cameras flashed as Wilson posed for a photo with Maya, capturing the moment that would be remembered not just by them, but by the community that would soon benefit from her work. Maya's co-workers, some of whom had doubted her, looked on with new respect. Even Caitlin, still speechless, avoided eye contact, realizing too late that the person she had mocked had risen far beyond her expectations. Wilson leaned down slightly, his voice private, but filled with warmth. "This is just the beginning, Maya. Keep your heart, your courage, and your kindness. They'll guide you further than any resume ever could." Maya nodded, swallowing hard, overwhelmed with gratitude. I won't let you down," she promised. "You already haven't," he replied, smiling. As he left the diner, Maya stood in the middle of the room, surrounded by applause, laughter, and tears, her life transformed in a single moment. The diner that had always felt small and confining now seemed expansive, filled with possibility. For the first time in years, Maya allowed herself to fully believe that she and Harmony had a future free of worry, free of constant struggle, a future where kindness could create opportunity and courage could lead to a life she had only dreamed of. And as the claps and cheers echoed around her, she realized one undeniable truth. Sometimes the smallest acts of humanity spark the greatest changes, ones that ripple far beyond what we can ever imagine. Maya smiled through tears, holding Harmony's hand tightly, and knew that this was just the beginning of a story that would last a lifetime. The diner, once a simple place of work and daily routine, had become the stage for a life-changing moment, a moment that proved hope, compassion, and integrity always find their reward. And with that, Maya stepped forward into a future she never dared dream of, ready to embrace it fully, fiercely, and with a heart wide open. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine, so do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.